Hey everyone, I'm so sorry about last week's video. I cut it short, but I was worried that it was getting too long and I was just throwing way too much information at you guys. So today will just be a further explanation of last week's experiment, where we made salt water, and then we slowly let the water evaporate from the cup, and then we were left with just the salt. So that made it reversible, making it a physical change. Now, when we made the caramel, we couldn't make the caramel go back into the white sugar that it was before, and that made it a chemical change. Now, let's make sure that we fully understand the difference between a physical change and a chemical change before we talk about God. And we're just going to use a simple piece of paper to do this. Now, we are going to be working with a flame, so I'm going to wear my safety equipment, and if you're going to do this, then you should too. Now, paper is really simple, so this will be a pretty easy and simplified explanation. Now, this is just paper, it's lightweight. Now, what happens if we rip it in half? Is this a physical or a chemical change? Well, you can't reverse it, right? You can't just put this piece of paper back together. So you may think that this is a chemical change. But is this a completely different substance? I mean, no, right? It's still paper. It has the exact same properties as it did before. It's just two smaller pieces instead of one big piece, but it's still paper. What happens if we burn it? Now, look at this. All this ash. Is this paper? No, right? This is no longer paper. But is this reversible? Well, no. How can we get this ash back into this paper? At least not reversing this reaction. So this makes it a chemical change because it's a completely different substance and it's not reversible. So, now that we know the difference between a physical change and a chemical change, let's talk about God. Now, what do you think of a person that starts believing in God? They didn't before, and now they do, so that's a change. Now, do you think that this change is reversible? Well, you may not realize it, but yeah, people stop believing in God all the time. It doesn't mean that it will happen or that it has to happen, but sometimes it does happen. Now, with the salt water, we could have left it salt water. We could have covered the cup and put it in the fridge, and then the water never would have evaporated out of the cup. But we let this happen, so don't let your faith evaporate. Make sure that you're paying attention and that you're maintaining your relationship with God, because otherwise it could reverse and you could lose your faith. But remember, this doesn't have to happen. It only happens if you let it happen. So, keep your relationship cool and strong, and until next time, bye!